All right, guys, so we have our plugin open. It can be any plugin, but in my case, I have the Kick 2 with Sonic Academy used for this example. And I think the purpose of what I'm about to show you is just showing you a process how you can, let's say, produce your own kick drum or mixing it with existing samples. So you can just make it your taste. Sometimes I just like a kick drum as it is, but I want to add a little bit more flavor, or you want to have a little bit more tick or transient, or you want to have a little bit of a longer tail on it. And for that reason, I use a plugin for especially the low end of a kick drum. And how you're going to do that, I'm going to show you as we speak. You open up your favorite plugin, and in my case here, obviously Kick 2, and I'm going to drag in an audio file, just a kick drum from Splice. It can be any kick drum. For example, I'm going to go for kick. And I'm going to pick the first one of my own sample pack, drag it in again to an empty channel. And I'm going to just add a few next to each other so we have a rhythm going. And you hear a little bit of a click, and you know how to fix that, which I showed earlier here on the masterclass. We're going to select all of these audio files. We're going to go to fade out on your left side of region, and we're going to give it a little bit of a fade so the sample can be a little bit longer. And the fade in is not necessary, as it is the transient of the kick which you want to have leading in your project. Okay, so the tuner of Logic already discovered that it is an F sharp. Well, that's fine. It doesn't matter that much, and I'm going to show you why, because we're going to add the low end of a kick drum from the plugin. First off, I'm going to mute the audio file that we're going to layer, and I'm just going to have my software solo, and I'm going to play an actual rhythm. That's not my best, but it works. And whenever you recorded something, maybe a funny thing to know, you double click the MIDI pattern, you zoom out holding Control and Option on your keyboard, and you use arrow left, arrow up, where you can change the zoom level of your piano roll. And here you see the bright background, which I explained earlier on the masterclass, which originally is dark. So you can just apply and change it the way you like it. I'm going to select all of these notes, which I generously played with an amazing vibe and swing to it, but I really want to have it on the one, stick on one and nothing but one. And the way to do that is just you click Q. There you go, boom. Another thing that I see happening is here I recorded something at this bar here, and Logic adds a loop. That's not something that I want. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to remove this. And I'm just going to stand on this software channel, and you'll see the actual default settings for recording MIDI in general. So you go to this MIDI default region setting here, and you untick the box of loop. Now the next time I'm going to record something, which I'm going to do now, I'm going to click R on my keyboard. That for me is the recording key. I think in default it is the star on your, or the cross star on your keyboard. For me it's R, and we're gonna play the kick. This was even worse than the first time, but I was focused on something else. Double click on the MIDI bar, and I'm gonna select all of these hits and notes here, click Q, and it is not gonna mesh perfectly because I was so far off. I'm gonna have to drag it. So I'm gonna do it again, click Q, and it is in place. And as you can see, there is no loop added, and you're good to go. Okay, selecting this MIDI block. This is not a very long kick drum, so I'm gonna go to the plugin, change the length here in the plugin by dragging the length, make it longer. And now you hear, and you actually see here as well in the visual menu, that the kick drum has become longer. So you'll see C10, A4, G1, G1 again with the frequency next to it. So you know what note the kick drum is playing at that point. And you can actually change that by just going to these little dots, drag it over to different keys, and you'll see that the matching frequency is showing up as well, which is super useful if you want to know where your kick drum is operating. And you'll hear the differences. Going back to the blending process, we have our fundament. We're going back to the original sample, which is the audio file here on top, solo it, and we want to take away the low end of this kick drum by going to an equalizer. This again can be to your taste and your liking. I just go for the default one of Logic, but of course FabFilter has amazing plugins. UAD has amazing plugins to do so for you. But for the quick workflow, I'm going to go for the default one and make a little bit of a adjustment to the EQ of the original kick drum. Take away the low end, so just the top stays in place. I'm going to add my plugin to it, and you'll hear that it actually blends in quite nice already, which means that the timing of the kick drum is already close to fine. And when you zoom in to the audio file, you'll see that it actually starts right in time. Okay, my anxiety tells me that this bar and this little line here has to start at 0, but you know, it's fine in the mix. You'll still hear there's some phasing going on, so we need to fix that. As we're using the top kick from the audio file, I'm going to rename this to kick top. For the plugin, I'm going to use this name kick low. And the top kicking, I think, is just fine as it is right now. Now we took away the low end of it. So we're going to go for the plugin and take away the high end, because we got that from the top kick. So adding in this EQ from Logic again, taking away all the high frequencies. And I'm going to add the top kick to it. I think this is about right. And if you want to change this, we're going to do that later on the mix. So in this way, you can have your kick drum going for you. You know what key it is in, you know what frequency it is, you know the length of the kick drum. And anytime in the project you want to change the length because you make a different decision based on the bass that you're going to use, you can do that and you're not bound and stuck to the original sample. So you can always go back, change the length of your kick drum and even change the key. Voila! Easy as that.